It's really very much a customer-centric approach. It's looking at all of the channels, but with our focus on the customer. That also then means that we're being very customer-centric with our copy. We're looking at those touch points. It's centered on helpful marketing. They actually really care about the customer. They will make sure that the automations that they have in place, which we know are incredibly effective and incredibly receptive, right? The audience are very receptive to the marketing automations. So that means that you're staying focused on your database, your consumer, your subscriber, your customer, whatever it is that you want to call them, right? Your prospect. And this then can transform, just by itself, can transform your marketing.
Hey, Kath, thank you for joining me on CEO After Dark.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
I was just talking to you about the challenges of talking to prospects, and you've been doing this for a very long time, 27 years, if I'm not mistaken. You've been in this industry longer than most people. Can I just ask, how did you get into this industry? How did all of this start?
Sure. So, so back in Australia, I had a web design company, and we had some wonderful clients, and I loved working with them, and I loved creating their websites for them, and I was really into SEO as well, because back then, if you were a website designer, you're also on top of SEO, and we had like Alta Vista and everything. It was that long ago, right? And then what happened was one of our clients came to us and they said, listen, it's a membership, it's a subscription business. And they said, we want to be contacting our audience continually. And this new thing had just come out called email marketing. So I went, okay, let's do it. So my CTO, or my chief coder, and I put our heads together and built the nucleus of an email marketing system, integrated it with them, and started getting all of that happening. It worked a treat. Started then giving it to some of my other clients. And before you know it, it was literally taking over my life. And I went, actually, this is really cool. I really want to do this. I mean, we're talking back in the day when we were, so the system I launched a couple of years later was one of the first systems out there to deal with email marketing. And I used to walk into, big brands in Australia and just say, hey, listen, you're sending emails, but you're sending them using BCC. I can tell you who opens them. I can tell you who clicks them. You can segment, you can do this. And they were just like, oh my goodness. And so selling was super easy until they kind of would reach out, because being in Australia, a lot of them were only, sub offices. And so they had to go and ask the parent company, who was based in the US or the UK, whether they could. And they were just like, oh my goodness, again, I sold them on it. And they were just, we've got to do this, but we need to find a local supplier. We don't want to deal with the Australian difference in the hour and stuff like that. So then I moved over to England because of that. So I have been in email marketing ever since. Well, so 1996 was when I was doing the web design and working with clients on the system, and then 1998 was when I launched the business. So it's been a while.
How many times have you heard people say email is dead? I think probably many times, right? Like people do like to say that.
I know. And it's so funny because I have seen it evolve. I have seen it to the point where it's evolved so much that all the old systems that were in place when it first came out no longer exist, because they can't make them work, because email is now subscriber-based rather than campaign-based. And all the databases were built for campaign sending rather than the actual subscriber and their, individual nuances and all the rest of it. So I have seen it evolve big time. I've seen deliverability evolve. I've seen messaging, strategies, everything like that evolve. And I'm still bedazzled by it. I still get excited by it. And if anything, email is more loved than ever before. I mean, when we first came out, everyone was in love. Or, well, I'm talking consumers, right? oh my goodness, look at this email. And they were very, very excited. And then we went through that whole little dodgy, time when um, spammers went, oh, email works really well. Let's go and do that, right? And so we were then fighting all the time. I'm not a spammer, and then we got over that, and deliverability was okay. The spammers had a harder time, and everything. And now it's now about just showing the value and how we can help consumers to achieve their objectives by using email. So yeah, I don't buy
It's
it.
it's been evolving, and I think as it was evolving, you coined this term holistic email marketing methodology or philosophy. Can you speak what does this mean? Like what is holistic email marketing strategy?
Sure. So back when I first coined it, no one else was using it at all. And the reason why I did it, I was sitting there talking to my friend, and I've always been customer centric. So I was getting a bit, on my high horse. We're having this little rant. And I'm saying, everyone's talking about, multi-channel and omni-channel and everything like this. And on one hand, I'm sort of feeling empathy for the marketers because they're trying to do the right thing. But at the same time, I also know it was actually the brand saying, we need to make this work so we make more money. So, which I have no problem with that as well. So I'm going, but they're starting at the wrong place. They're starting at what our needs are, what our needs, the brand is. We need, the channels to be talking to each other, to be working together. I'm like, you're totally forgetting about the actual customer themselves. And you're forgetting about their journey and their needs and their objectives. And so, this brought to mind, coming from Australia, we have very much, it's a nice symbiotic relationship that a lot of GPs are actually also naturopaths as well. So the holistic approach for medicine is quite integral within a lot of, GPs. So I went, that's what we need. We need that integrated approach. We need it so that we're not just looking at the liver. If there's a pain in the liver, we're actually looking at the eyes. And that's going to give us insights about what is wrong with the liver. We're going to look at the feet, and we're going to sort of go, oh, there's a lump here. Oh, that means that you have a problem with the liver, and let's go and have a look at this. Or actually, it's not your liver, it's your kidney, whatever the story is. So we're looking at different things, and we're looking at the person holistically. And so that's where it all came in. And now you could try and, attend any conferences, and you can't walk away from a conference without having heard the word holistic so many times. So when I first had to do it, when I first introduced it, I'm explaining it all the time. And nowadays, people just have caught on to it. They understand what it means. And it actually encompasses so much without actually having to, do all the details and everything. You just say, oh, we're going to do it holistically. Straight away, everyone knows. So it's really very much a customer-centric approach. It's looking at all of the channels, but with our focus on the customer. That also then means that we're being very customer-centric with our copy. We're looking at those touch points, and it's centered on helpful marketing, right? And if you think about helpful marketing, right? Again, this was a concept I started talking about years and years ago. If we think about email marketing, and we're talking about permission-based, right? So if we think about permission-based email marketing, someone comes to our website, an e-commerce site, and they say, oh, I like that range of clothes, or I like those shoes, or I like that makeup, whatever. But they're not in a position to buy. They have no need, whatever the story is. They're waiting for payday, or, they go and subscribe. So they have a need, and you have a product that they want. So what happens now is that you offered them, say, 10%. You didn't offer them anything except for maybe you just said to them, listen, we're going to send you the latest deals and the latest makeup and, or, some tips and tricks on whatever the story is. Right now, a transaction took place. No money exchanged hands. You didn't have to do a 10% or an offer or anything, but a transaction took place. And what that then means is that you have to honor that transaction so that if you think about their needs all the time, why do they subscribe? Why do they want to hear from us? What do they want to hear from us? Then what you're doing is you're honoring on that original transaction, and every email you're sending, you're actually sending a not just a helpful marketing, but almost like a transactional based email, because you are delivering upon that transaction that was made, right? So if we start to think about that as being helpful marketing, now that then means you can't be helpful if you're not actually focusing on the person that you're trying to help, right? It really,
Yeah.
really helps you to stay focused. So that means that you're staying focused on your database, your consumer, your subscriber, your customer, whatever it is that you want to call them, right? Your prospect. Um, and this then can transform, just by itself, can transform your marketing. Because then once you start thinking about the customer, you can't not think about all those bits of friction that you've put in their place, in front of them, that they have to stumble over or jump away from, or whatever the story is. You can't think about, what it is that they're wanting and making sure that you can deliver it. Because another way that I say it is, it's like two sides of the same coin. They want something from you. You want to sell something to them. It's really, really simple. So what are you going to do? You can either keep on doing, which we are very guilty of doing in email because we are a push channel. You can keep on pushing your objectives to them, sell, 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 or we want you to buy, buy, buy. Or else you can just walk around the other side of the coin, take them by the hand and say, how can I help you today? Really,
I
really easy.
think based on what I've seen, at least, like in my point of view, the push tends to come not from the email marketers themselves, but from the management of the companies. They are the ones that say, we have to hit this revenue objective. Like, let's not do this. It won't move the needle. Let's push this initiative. Like, what's the ROI on this?
Yes.
And what I see is that it always feels like the email marketers, at least many email marketers, are being put in a very difficult spot. Whereas they do see what you say, that they have to be helpful. It has to be permission based. It has to be respectful. It has to be honoring the transaction between the brand and the consumer that's signing up for the emails. But then you have to hit the revenue targets. So how how do you deal with that sort of thing? Like, how do you push back on poor decisions led by management that doesn't truly understand how the channel works? I think that's a very good question to consider and think about.
It's a big question, right? And it's a big challenge. And I come across it all the time, not just with teaching students, but also with my my consulting clients. And I totally agree with you. It's often the email marketers. They know better. They know they're passionate. They want to help and they want to do the right thing, but they're being put in a position where they have actually no choice. And they either do it or they'll find someone else who will do it, right? Instead. So it is a difficult position. There's one thing that you can do, and that's why I spend a lot of my time helping the marketers themselves to build business cases, and that often means then doing an A/B split test. Do it the way that they want it. Do it the way that you should do it. Let's see what the winner is. And some of those tests will have to run over 3 months, 6 months, or anything like that, depending on what it is you're testing. Is it a small approach? Is it a big approach? Very, very different approach. I had a client, and not just last year, and they had a really bad deliverability problem. They send millions every week, and they had a huge deliverability problem. I resolved it to a certain point, and then it started back again, and I'm going, okay, what's happened here? So I then went and delved in a little bit deeper, because they didn't allow me to do a full audit. They said, no, we don't want to spend money on that, right? So I only did the deliverability side of the audit rather than the full holistic side of the audit, where I'm looking at everything and I'm leaving no stone unturned. So I just went, do you know what, guys? We need to do that. So that's what I went and did. And And interestingly enough, I found that they don't allow, so it's a SaaS product, they don't allow you to unsubscribe from emails. They don't
Is that
allow,
legal? How does that work?
well, they do allow you, so you can unsubscribe from the actual email itself, right? But you can't unsubscribe from it once you've logged in. You can't close your email, you can't close your account. You can't. So your SaaS account is open forever and ever and ever. And that gives them the right to email you forever and ever. So there you are, you've gone and taken them up on their free trial, and their free trial has no end date. It's not a 7-day, not a 10-day, not a 2-week, no end date. So it's always free. And there's a limited amount of things that you can do on that. And then you have to go and pay money to, to do other things. And so they are perpetually emailing you, trying to win you back. And that could be 5 years ago, you looked at it and went, no, it's not what I want. And then, but you're still getting emails from them. And yes, they will honor the unsubscribe if you unsubscribe from them on the email, but if you log on in. And I actually had the same issue with an app just this week. The only way I could close my account and stop being billed was to actually go and contact them directly and then put my case to them. It's like they're creating these barriers, these huge big friction journeys. And am I ever going to recommend that brand again to anyone? No, absolutely not, because I had to jump through all these hurdles just to close my account. Now, and it's the same with this one. So I went and said, this is it. This is the reason. This is why you're having deliverability problems, because you are emailing people who are not interested. They never were interested. They took you up on a free offer 5 years ago, haven't ever logged in, haven't ever actioned it, and they're just hitting complain, right? That's the problem.
What should the email marketer that's working in that company do in this case? Should they just leave the company and go work somewhere else? Like, what's what's the recommendation?
Yes. One did leave, one stayed. You know, I pitched it to them. I showed them. I showed all the evidence. I did everything. And they were just like, no, because I had to change their whole business model then. And they just said, no, we're not going to do that. And I said, well, you're always going to have deliverability problems. So the one that stayed knew that that was the case. And I had given them lots of workarounds and lots of, things that they have to do and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they're still sending emails that are not wanted. So they're always going to have problems.
Okay, so we spoke about what brands do wrong, basically, right? Let's flip this. What do the best brands do well? Like you've consulted with major companies. I know, like eBay, Tommy Hilfiger, that the likes of that sort of company. What do those companies, not the specific companies I mentioned, but let's say the best in class companies do right that other companies can learn from?
Wow. Okay. Well, for one, they're all very, very different. They're all very, very different. They all have their own set of unique challenges, and it's really about them identifying what those challenges are and, dealing with them accordingly. But if we just talk about email system and their strategy, right? So their strategy is the very, very good ones. They actually really care about the customer. They will make sure that the automations that they have in place, which we know are incredibly effective and incredibly receptive, right? The audience are very receptive to these lifecycle marketing automations, are delivering the right information at the right timing. They will be testing them. The actual emails themselves that they're doing, they test the frequency, they test the cadence, they break their segments. They do segmented email marketing, and that's often generally it's a case of layering, right? So it's not just it's the demographics or or anything like that. It's like layering different segments. But of course, they've got big budgets and they've got big databases and they've got big data teams and everything like that. So that they can do it because of that. So, they're just doing not everything. No one's doing everything right? But they're doing a lot of things right. And it's really interesting. There are some that are doing loads of things right, and they're doing some really, really obviously bad things as well. Like just the full-on all images with the emails. And I'm just like, you're leaving money on the table by doing that. Plus, you're flouting the accessibility laws as well, right? But yeah, it's interesting. But I think that's what I love doing. What I'm doing because I work with big brands, I work with small brands. I get a taste of what everyone is doing, and I learn from all of them. And then I can bring those learnings into, my next client. And I think that's one of the values of, independent consultancy and agencies such as yourself,
I want to stay on this word you use, which is a very interesting word, strategy. I think it's a tricky word. I don't think everybody means the same thing when they say strategy. There are people that think that strategy is creating a calendar. And there are people that think strategy is having some automations in place. How do you define strategy? What is strategy? And what's the difference, I guess, between having a strategy and just being tactical and just doing things?
Yeah, I love that question. And you know what? I think I'm probably the first one that's ever asked that of me. So, strategy in my book, the way I see it, right, this is how I break it down in the course, is you start with your business goals. What is it the business is actually wanting to achieve this year? And then you break that down into your marketing objectives. And those marketing objectives will be SMART, and they will, so that's, I can't even remember the acronym for this.
Specific, measurable, action.
Specific, exactly, measurable, actionable, relevant, and timely. So you've got the SMART objectives and you break them down on a life stage basis. So you'll have one for acquisition, one for conversion, retention, win back, loyalty, blah, 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 right? And you won't just have one, you'll have multiple for each of those. Then with each of those, you're going to have a strategy. And then under that strategy comes a bunch of tactics. So if you break it down, so it's very, very simple like that, the strategy part is telling you what you're going to do and how you're going to do it without being specific enough that it's actually a tactic. And it's very much delivering upon that marketing objective, which delivers upon the business goal, right? So if we start thinking about that then and how I do these strategies, because then you can go for the overarching strategy, and the overarching strategy really needs to be a written document, because without that, if you were to say, okay, I've had enough and I'm leaving in 2 weeks, and you had the strategy in your mind, you never wrote it down, you didn't share it with the team, then they're floundering when you've left, right? And I'm not making this up. This happens so many times, so they then have to go and redo a whole new strategy and they've lost traction because they don't have that. So write the strategy down in incredible detail. Now, that strategy, though, that written document has to be a living, breathing document, because maybe you've done some tests, or maybe you've gone and completed this and you're finding out it's not working as well as you want. So you want to be refining it. You need to be updating it. You need to be reviewing it and all the rest of it. And of course, within that strategy, you'll build your roadmap. Now, those roadmaps are generally going to be quarterly based, could be monthly based, but those roadmaps are which are roadmaps are filled with tactics. That's what most people call a strategy, right? They go, oh,
Yep.
Here's our tactics, or here's our strategy for Q1. And it's just literally a list of tactics. The problem with that is you haven't got the they're not tied to that specific objective, which is tied to that specific, the business goal and everything. So they could be a tactic here and a tactic there and everything. They could be not sort of like working against each other. They could be, there's so many problems that could happen because you're just listing tactics rather than being completely and utterly focused on this overarching strategy, which is highly documented and focused on the customer. And it's match every single thing that you do, you know why you're doing it. You know what you're going to achieve. You know what the KPIs are going to be. You understand whether it's been prioritized because it's either going to be easy to implement or it's going to be more difficult. So therefore, it's going to be a higher ROI, low ROI, blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. So all of these things need to be identified, and that to me is a strategy as opposed to just a quarterly map of ideas that we could.
Clear, clear. I think the way I think about this is that unless you define initially where you're going to go, you can have a lot of movement, but you will essentially be running circles around yourself, right? Like you can't get where you want to go unless you know where you want to go.
Yes.
And I'm, to be fair, I'm seeing this mostly from an e-commerce lens because that's where my agency functions.
Yes.
But I think the challenge is that there's quite a lack of know-how when it comes to the space, and
Yeah.
quite a like I would say that the brands themselves don't really know what they should be targeting to do as businesses when it comes to retention marketing, which consequently leaves the email marketers unarmed because unless you have this initial core business objective of this is what we want to do as a business, then you can't really translate into channel level objectives, which is why I think the academy that you're launching is so brilliant, because I think we really need this in the industry. We really need a resource that will give us the tools to be able to have more strategic discussions with brands and clients and our managers if we're working in-house and so on. Can you speak to that about this project, the Holistic Email Academy?
Sure, I'd love to. Okay, so in my years of training, now I've always had a heart for the marketer. And when I've been training, I see quite a few things, right? One is that most of them come into email marketing by accident. No one sort of says when you're 10, I'm going to be an email marketer when I grow up, right? So we tend to fall into email marketing, which tends to mean that we don't necessarily have the training for it. And there's a lot of brands out there who won't necessarily train the staff up. They just go, okay, well, this is what you're doing, this is how you do it, and and they don't give them the why or anything like that. So what that therefore means, and they might get them to do the course offered by their technology, right? So one of their ESPs, if they offer a training course, but of course that course isn't teaching them about email marketing. It's not teaching them about how to be customer-centric. It's teaching them how to do email marketing using that technology, right? Which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying that, but it's not a replacement for actually a true learning course based in strategy, based in human psychology, which is what we do a lot of, and understanding how humans work and what we need to be saying and how we need to be saying it to them and how we can be helping them and all the rest of it. So I, along with my son, who's been working with me now for 18 plus years or something, he's the world's first second generation email marketer. We decided that we wanted to build this academy, and it's on-demand courses, going for different levels, because that's the other thing I learned. And I struggled with all the time was because everyone that came to my course, the advanced course, no one wants to do, in public a basic course. I'm going to do the advanced one, where they actually miss out a lot. So I'm there in the course trying to catch them up whilst also make sure that the advanced students are getting the additional learnings that they need and everything. So I went, okay, I'm going to do different levels because it's on demand. It doesn't really matter. No one's going to know, right? So we're doing that starting from scratch. So, because the thing is too, is that I found that you might be advanced in, say, analytics and data, but you are a novice when it comes to copywriting and design. There's very few people that are 100% in all areas of email marketing. So that just means then that you have the ability now to actually do the advanced course in analytics, but you might want to do the beginner in design and work your way up to the advanced, right? And then that way you have a more holistic view of email marketing, a more thorough view of email marketing. And we just really, really wanted this to be available to everyone. We want to, we're just about to launch a blog, and it's basically, we're on a mission really to help to elevate marketers, email marketers, which of course is going to elevate the industry altogether. And then the consumers are going to love email more, and it's a lovely, circle. So, and then we'll get more people wanting to come into email marketing and so on and so on. And it's going to be so far away, people are going to stop saying email's dead, right? Because it's not going to happen. Yeah, I've got a big, big, big mission ahead of me.
Where can people find this academy? I know it's not released yet, but by the time this episode is released, it might. So what's the
Yes.
domain or URL that they can look it up?
Yes. So it's holisticemailacademy.com. And
Okay.
we are going to be launching the website this week. You won't be able to register, but you can put your name on waitlist. Again, yes, by the time this is live, you should hopefully be able to register and take courses.
Fantastic. I do have one last question before I let you go. And I think you are singularly able to answer it because, again, you've seen this industry evolve over time in a way that very few people have. There's a lot of chatter, I think, in our industry about AI and how it will affect our work, particularly when it comes to the creative side of things. Things will be increasingly automated with AI. And then also, I think, when it comes to the interpretation of data, that increasingly it will be the AI telling us, hey, this is what's going bad, this is what's going well. So I sense that there is a little bit of unease when it comes to people that are perhaps a little bit more junior than you and I are on, is this still the right career? Is this still the right path for me? Based on you launching an academy, I believe you think it is, but I just want to hear what's your take on technology, AI specifically, and how it will affect this industry.
Yes. Now, AI, we use it and I teach on it, right? Because I see it as being incredibly helpful and incredibly valuable. But yes, there is that fear that it will take over, it will take jobs. And I have seen that already start to happen, right? But some of those companies are also backtracking and saying, oops, no, it's a bit too early yet, right? I can't predict what's going to happen in 5 years because AI is moving so fast. We literally have no idea what's going to happen. I can see, a lot of people are saying, why do I even need a strategist now? I can get a strategy from, my AI. And I can see that happening in a few years. But again, all of this means that you have to be very, very au fait with your AI tool, that you have really trained them. Now, the reason why we use it so much is I've spent a lot of time training. I train my AI on all of my stuff. And I'm lucky because I've written hundreds of articles, thousands of articles, and I've written a book or 2 books, and I've got tons of courses and everything like that. So I've got so much content that I can give it. And I'm training it on my, beliefs within email marketing, not on the outside beliefs. And this is where the problem comes, right? Those that are just relying on external insights for their strategy. Now, AI is clever, but it's not clever enough to actually identify whether that's regurgitated rubbish, whether that's actually true, because it can only work with what you give it, and it can only work with what's out on the web. And there is so much regurgitated rubbish out there. There is so many bad best practices, which are being touted as being good best practices out there, that it will often get things wrong because it can only go with what it's being fed. So if you put in bad information, it's going to come out with bad information or bad advice. And that's where we're at the moment. Everyone's going, oh, I can just go and here's some, articles, go and create me another article. Then here we go, we've got another regurgitated AI produced article, which is saying the same bad advice. And everyone's going, oh, it's an article, it's on the web, it must be true. Let's go and do it. They're not testing it. They're not actually looking at the authenticity of it and sort of verifying that that is from a trusted source. They're not anything like this, right? And that's where problems will come. And so if companies are thinking that they can just, substitute good advice because AI is there, yes, AI has that capability if you train it on the right data. And that's the key factor. That's why we use it a lot, because we're training it, in my opinion, on the right data. Does that help?
I guess the takeaway is that artificial intelligence is important, but you still need to work on your actual intelligence, right? Like the other AI.
I love that.
So
Yes.
good, good. Thank you for taking the time, Kath. It was very good to speak with you today. And just to be concrete, what's the easiest way for people to contact you if somebody wants to engage you for a consulting agreement or any other reason?
I'm on LinkedIn, so Kath Pay. It's my username there. I think I'm the only Kath Pay around. I don't know. You can get me at kath@holisticemail.com as well, or you can just do Kath Pay into the search engine, and you'll come up with pages and pages and pages. And I'm sure you click on a link, you'll get me.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much, George. It was a pleasure.